Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Victor Wembanyama excused himself early in Game 4, and the Wolves capitalized. Also, the Knicks steamrolled the 76ers on their way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Washington Wizards have won the NBA lottery for the first time since 2010.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Victor Wembanyama threw an elbow, caught an early ejection, and the Wolves have things evened up 2-2 after a wild Game 4. Locked On Wolves host Ben Beacon reacted to Minnesota's much-needed win before the series heads back to San Antonio.
This was, early second quarter, and I'm sure everybody, you've seen the play at this point. Wembanyama gets the rebound. There's a lot of contact. He's kind of reaching over Jaden, and then Jaden's grabbing his arm. And, there's just, could have been a foul called either way, sure. And then Wemby trying to get the ball away from what could have been a jump ball, had it clean away, and then appeared to look over his right shoulder, see Naz Reid, and out of frustration, throw an elbow that connected with, looked like the bottom part of Naz's jaw, which it feels like it was a little higher in the temple. It could have been way worse. If it was a little lower in the throat, it could have been worse. I don't know. You pick where you're going to take that elbow. If it's above the shoulders, Naz might have been a little bit lucky there in terms of where the elbow actually landed. And it clearly was a flagrant 2. He clearly should have been ejected. That makes sense. We'll find out today whether or not he's suspended. I kind of would be surprised. I think it's either 0 or 1 game. I kind of hope it's 0, just because, I don't know, nobody wants an asterisk win in the series if that's where we end up here. And the Wolves are capable of beating this Spurs team with Victor Wembanyama. That's the team that they've prepared to play against. And on some level, we saw it in this game. The Spurs competed differently and also very hard when Wemby was out anyway. So I actually kind of hope he's not suspended. I think it would be totally justifiable to not suspend him given the circumstances, et cetera, of the playoffs. I also think it's justifiable to give him 1 game. I think either one makes sense. Certainly shouldn't be more than that. I know that there's comps out there. The Meta World Peace elbow on James Harden, a decade and a half ago, that was different. There's also a player who had a history, clearly, premeditated swing of the elbow, not even really during the course of a play. It's not apples to apples, and there's other examples too. I think it's going to be 0 or 1, but we'll have to see how that plays out. Anyway, there's really not much else to say here. I mean, there's this, of course, online push from a lot of folks on the Spurs media and fan side about, the officials allowed this because they've allowed so much physicality. Well, it's the playoffs. You're going to allow physicality. Wemby's not the only guy that's getting fouled without foul calls. If you ever watch a Timberwolves game, Anthony Edwards, it's the exact same thing, but who doesn't throw elbows and lash out is Anthony Edwards. Rudy Gobert, I think, led the league in flagrant fouls this year. So he obviously needs to work on controlling the emotions in some situations as well. And he did have the in-the-air shove. I forget who it was. The Suns game, I think. That was a flagrant 2, but I think that was his only 2 of the season. It was dangerous, no doubt. I'm not defending Rudy's shove, but I don't think it was as bad as this was, right? So the point is, I thought the post-game comments from Mitch Johnson were completely out of pocket. You can't say, and if you missed it, I'm paraphrasing, but he said that Wembanyama, he didn't think he did it on purpose. He's glad Naz Reid's okay. But then he goes on to say, I'm glad I understand why he took matters into his own hands, something along those lines. But he said the words, took matters into his own hands because the officials aren't. That's reckless. It's just not true. It's playoff basketball. Everyone's getting fouled just because Wemby, nobody wants Wemby to get hurt. Everyone wants to watch Victor Wembanyama play basketball. I literally just said I don't want him to be suspended a game. So this isn't coming from a place of somebody who wants Wemby to not be on the floor. And I certainly don't want any players to get hurt. But it's not up to the officials to legislate whether or not there's a player who's more or less likely to be injured, right? And Wemby, we've seen, has had some injury issues. And also, and obviously what happened last year is a fluke and not a straight injury issue, but given his size and the way he plays and the way he's built, he is going to be more prone to injury. And I understand why the Spurs are sensitive to that. And on some level, you can stand up to the physicality against him. But the comments in the way that Mitch Johnson made them are reckless. The referees cannot officiate Wemby differently than they officiate Rudy Gobert. they're not the same guy. And I get Wemby has a much higher usage rate. He's got the ball in his hands way more than Rudy Gobert. But Rudy gets hammered in the head and neck and face and shoulders and the whole thing all the time, and is getting very few foul calls. And that's what leads to all the flagrant fouls from Rudy. So, like, if you're going to referee Wemby that way, you've got to referee every big man that way. And I'm sure that there's some connection here to the flopping on the guards and wings that flop and get calls where bigs are getting fouled. But I always talk about this with Ant. It's the Shaq syndrome. When you're so big that somebody hacking you affects you less, it's not as obviously a foul, and or officials are like, he's big. He get, with Shaq, right? Shaq was the best example of this. Ant is the guard version. Ant just plays through contact. Ant has never once flopped. Never once. I can't think of a single time where Anthony Edwards has embellished contact. Rudy will do it occasionally, not to the level of Wemby or, we've seen Wemby. He didn't get to do his nightly flop in this game because he only played 12 minutes before he was ejected. But Wemby's averaging until this game a flop a game in the series, like a one egregious flop per game. Rudy will do it occasionally. Ant never flops. Ant plays through contact. Ant plays hard. He plays through contact. And you know what he has also never done is lined up an elbow and thrown an intentional elbow at an opponent's head neck area. Just straight up. It just hasn't happened. So that's the facts about what has happened. And, I kind of hope he doesn't get suspended, but I think the complaining about the physicality of the playoffs, I don't know. Maybe it's just coming from a coach who's ever coached in the playoffs. Maybe that's what it is. A player who's never played in the playoffs, a team that's never played in the playoffs. I think that's where we're at here. Welcome to the playoffs. And the Spurs still may end up winning the series. Understandably, they're favored. And if Wemby, it's possible this thing's over in 6. I said from the beginning it would go 7, and I picked the Wolves in 7. I still think that's where we're headed. So Wemby's an incredible player. The Spurs are an incredible team. Mitch Johnson's a great coach. But it's just, sometimes you just got to call a spade. And I think this is just a lack of experience. And that's what we're seeing here. Okay, I want to dig in on the Timberwolves, the adjustment to playing against the Wemby Spurs. So I'm going to do that next.
Stay up to date all year on the Minnesota Timberwolves by subscribing to Locked On Wolves on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. We're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, it's almost unfair what the Knicks did to the 76ers. Before we get to that, the Bulls were given a lottery gift. The NBA playoffs are rolling along where every possession matters. Every matchup is magnified and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You could bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. The Chicago Bulls held the 9th best odds in the NBA draft lottery, but managed to climb all the way to the number 4 overall pick.
But let's stick on positive right now before we get hit with the reality. How you feeling, Pat?
Listen, I am ecstatic. I'm excited. I think that you get an opportunity to go to star hunting, which is something that we didn't think we'd be talking about with the Bulls, right? We were thinking, hey, find some pieces that fit well into what you currently have with Josh Giddey and Modest and things like that, and make that work. Now you get an opportunity to go say, hey, if he's out there, if he's not already on this team already, you're getting the face of the franchise level player. No matter what, top 4 pick, your expectation is this is a guy that's going to change your franchise, and you get one in a draft that has a ton of talent in it. And so I'm very excited by it. The history is, as you mentioned, is not great, but we're all about changing history here.
More on the lottery coming up in just a second. Over on the diamond, the Braves scored their first road series win over the Dodgers since 2023.
The Atlanta Braves win the series over the Dodgers, getting it done on Sunday in a 7-2 victory. And story in this one was Bryce Elder. He was just absolutely dominant early on in this game, pretty much like Spencer Strider on Saturday. He only allows 1 hit. He does go 5 2/3 innings, as he did lose control in that 6th inning. Walked the bases loaded. Robert Suarez came in, got a big out, which was actually done by Eli White, who made an incredible catch running into the wall. Offense then added a couple runs late, a Drake Baldwin home run, a Matt Olson home run. Earlier in the game, it was Mauricio Dubon coming through with a bases clearing double. So everybody really chipping in. And this one, what was a great win. And after that Friday night series, or that Friday night game, the Atlanta Braves bounced back to win the series over the Dodgers and really kind of do it in dominant fashion, kind of what we were hoping for coming into this series with the matchups that you had. So a great game on Sunday for the Braves, great series win in LA, great road trip for this Atlanta Braves team that still looks like one of the best teams in baseball right now. We'll cover it all in the postcast and Locked On Braves.
And on the playoff ice, the Canadiens made a statement in Game 3 against the Sabres.
The Montreal Canadiens have done something this playoff that as a group they've yet to do, which is win back-to-back games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Montreal takes Game 3 against Buffalo by a final score of 6-2. Montreal, look, they gave up the first goal. It was a weird bounce, hit Carrier in the knee, went to the backboards, bounced out to a wide-open net for Tage Thompson. And it seemed like that might have taken the crowd out of it. If it weren't for the Montreal Canadiens immediately putting their foot back on the gas, they were the better team through the rest of the first period. The second period blew this thing wide open. Montreal scored 3 times in the second. And then they didn't really coast into the third and into the night. But, Buffalo tried to push. They ended up getting one back. But Montreal was able to weather a storm, weather some power play minutes from the Buffalo Sabres, and tack on some goals of their own. Alex Newhook, 2 more goals in this one. Him turning it on offensively. It's a really good sign for the Montreal Canadiens. But you also look in net once again. Just 2 goals against on Jakub Dobeš, a .929 in this game as he faced 28 shots from the Buffalo Sabres. Just a fantastic effort from start to finish for Montreal. And the big factor in this one that I know everyone talks about and they know all about it, the Bell Center. It was loud. It was in their face. They made it a very difficult place for the Buffalo Sabres to play on Sunday night. So give everyone in that building wearing a red sweater credit for that one, as Montreal takes a 2-1 series lead, and they look to go up 3-1 at the second game at the Bell Center on Tuesday. We'll talk to you then.
The New York Knicks might have found something in their Game 6 curb stomping of the Hawks in round 1, because since then they've been unstoppable on offense, sweeping the 76ers with basically no problem. Locked On Knicks host Gavin Shaw celebrates New York reaching the Eastern Conference Finals for the second year in a row, with Jalen Brunson and company eager to take on the winner of Cavs Pistons.
Again, I 100% take it for granted at time. Maybe that's why I was so paranoid about how close this series is going to be, XJ. But we can't take this moment for granted. Second straight year in the Eastern Conference Finals, first sweep of the Jalen Brunson era. And it doesn't feel real because they do it in such dominant fashion. Their 7th straight win by an average of 26.5 points per game. Another closeout game, as our buddy Fred Katz put it, where their bench guys are in with about 3 minutes left in the third quarter, 4 minutes left in the third quarter. In this game, they put together not just one of the best offensive performances in Knicks history, but one of the best playoff and just generally one of the best shooting performances in the history of the NBA. 18 threes in the first half, which ties not an NBA playoff record, as Mike Breen put it, but an NBA record, period. They're 1 3 away from most threes in the first half of any game in league history. Second best offensive rating in a playoff game in a half in NBA history. 3 highest scoring playoff halves in franchise history that have come in, the 3 highest scoring playoff halves in franchise history have now come in the last 5 games. Most threes in a playoff game by any team, tying that record. They just needed 1 more 3 in the fourth quarter, only hit 2 of them to set that record. It is dominant. And my question for you that I am struggling with here, because we know this Philly team is not great given their injury situation. We know Atlanta was good, but maybe not quite ready yet. What am I watching here? Is this real? Will this go away if they play the Pistons in the next round or whoever potentially in the finals? Like, how real is this, dude? Like, I want to believe. Maybe my past trauma isn't letting me, but I trust you to be objective about this.
I appreciate the question, and it was a risky question from you, I think, because there's a big chance I could bring the energy down with what I'm about to say. But fortunately, I don't think I have to. I think this is legit, and it really is contingent on a couple of things. But to be honest with you, if we see, and of all the things that we saw, you said some incredible things. I wanted to add some stats to it as well. But of everything that we saw, the most exciting thing to me, the thing that makes this most real to me is just a small detail, maybe an afterthought. It is Josh Hart's shooting performance in this game. Josh Hart was not just, catching the ball, not really feeling it, taking a couple of dribbles, a dribble in, a dribble out, and then shooting a fadeaway and clanking it off the side of the rim or making it sometimes. He wasn't doing any of that. He was there like, I'm going to catch and shoot. He shot the ball aggressively and made shots. And if the Knicks have Josh Hart shooting like that, obviously if Deuce McBride and Landry Shamet are just making everything, they're not going to make everything moving forward. But they shoot just like to their ability, and Josh Hart shoots like this in terms of his aggression, catch and shoot, not dribbling around, just taking the shot when he's open. Karl-Anthony Towns is being maximized. We're seeing this great Mikal Bridges. We're seeing a great Jalen Brunson. OG Anunoby didn't even play. We saw the best OG Anunoby that we've ever seen. If those things are real, then this is real. Detroit is not going to shake any of those things. They're still going to be able to dominate. Maybe not in the same way, because I think Philly's just like a wash team at this point. But that makes this team extremely real. And to be honest, extremely difficult to beat for anyone in the Eastern Conference or in the Western Conference, whether that's OKC, whether that's San Antonio, whether that's Detroit or Cleveland. This is real if the Knicks continue to play that the way that they have. And it is not subject to defense or anything like that. I think it's subject to how those guys are playing and how those guys are shooting and the aggression and confidence. And the way that they have played so far, it makes me believe it. It makes me believe it. So I'm buying it. I think that, of course, the destruction and, the BTA that they just gave Philly, I don't think that we're going to see that all the time. That feels a little, that feels a little crazy. Like you mentioned some of the data, scoring 144 points, the most they scored in a game this playoffs, including the decimation of the Hawks in round 1. That was a BTA. They had 150 offensive rating. You mentioned it, the best offensive rating they've had across the entire season in all 92 games that they've played. That's another BTA. They tied the playoff record for most threes in a quarter. You talked about what they shot in the half. In the first quarter, they shot 11 threes, made 11 threes, 11 for 13 threes in the first quarter. 25 threes, the most they've made all season. They won by 30, making it the 4th win in the 8 postseason wins to come by 25 points. Yeah, I don't know if they're going BTA on the rest of the NBA this way, but I think it's absolutely real, Gavin.
Just in case people haven't noticed, what do you have on your neck there?
I got old trusty, the old trusty belt, the old trusty belt. And hopefully it's not the last time I get to break it out, but I got to take every opportunity to break out old trusty,
Stay up to date all year on the New York Knicks by subscribing to Locked On Knicks on your favorite podcast app. Coming up, the Wizards now hold the #1 overall pick in the 2026 NBA draft. 8 times the charms for the Wizards, who finally won the NBA lottery for the first time since 2018. Locked On Wizards host Ben Strober and Abdullah Ayyubi celebrated Washington's win and discussed who the Wizards should select as the next star in DC. Just a hint, it's probably AJ DeBanza.
There weren't many scenarios where that could happen, where the Wizards would end up actually being in the top 4. So it's incredible. We're going to get into everything with the lottery, what the Wizards should do with the first overall pick, AJ versus Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson. Do they fit in the conversation? We detail all of that today. But first of all, this changes everything about the Washington Wizards. This 3-year process, first of all, the correct process, the right process that they took to bottom out for the last 3 seasons, build this thing up foundationally through your infrastructure, deconstruct your roster to a point where you got as many bites at the apple as possible. You know what they say? 3rd time is the charm. 3rd time where they bottom out, they end up with #1. I've never been so nervous in my life when they pull up the 5th card and it became up as Clippers. First of all, you got to the break and you're like, oh my God, we're actually in the top 4.
Ben, I celebrated.
Yeah, exactly. You felt good about it. And then it was like you're playing with house money when you're in the top 4. You're like, okay, let's see what's next. But when you get to that moment where Mark Tatum puts up the #2 card and it's the Utah Jazz, it literally changes everything. It changes the way people are going to feel about this Wizards team, about this city, because this is a basketball town at heart. And you think about the years that transpired after John Wall was taken #1 overall. First of all, retire that #2 jersey immediately.
Oh, you
that
have
could be
to.
an episode topic on itself. Shout out to John Wall, honoring his late mother as well on the stage. On Mother's Day, he wins the lottery. It feels like it's only fitting. It is a perfect storybook ending to what is the deconstruction phase for the Washington Wizards. It's time to be part of the cool kids club, as my colleague Danny Rouillet likes to say. It's time to finally be part of an organization that is respected around the league, that can be in these cool kid conversations in league circles, because you can finally complete complete this rebuild with a potential foundational superstar piece. You have your ancillary pieces that you need here on your team because you've drafted and developed well outside of getting lucky over the last couple seasons. Now that you have a chance to get one of these foundational stars to complete this thing, it is where you can really start to take off. And I think a lot of people were excited about Wizards basketball next year because of the addition of Trae Young and Anthony Davis, but things just went to a new level, AB.
Yeah, this changes everything, the trajectory of this franchise, being in position to take a talent like AJ DeBonza or Darren Peterson. That's going to be the debate, Ben, on Wizards Twitter for weeks up until the NBA draft. It's going to be exciting. What a time to be alive, Ben. It's insane, Ben. From our tenure of covering this Wizard squad, in less than a year, this team traded for Trae Young, traded for Anthony Davis, and the cherry on top, you get the #1 overall pick. Where are the people out there that said we were going to get 5? Ben, remember my optimism. I said this team was going to get, I'm losing my voice, I'm so sorry, but I said this team was going to get #1, and people thought I was delusional. This is what we deserve for so long. Thank you, Adam Silver. Thank you, Mark Tatum. Let's go, Wiz.
Let's go, man. And you as a fan listening to this right now, watching it, a lot of you have watched us every day over the last year, even since the Wizards got hosed in the lottery when they fell to 6, and they've gotten hosed plenty of times. But it's the third time in franchise history they will pick #1 overall. A monumentous day in the district here for sure. And it's so interesting because we look at the history of the 25 times that the Washington Wizards have been in the lottery. They have moved down 12 of those times. 11 of those times they stayed still. They only moved up 3 separate times. This time, you were hoping even if you moved back, you were only falling to 2 or 3 or even 4 for this matter because of how loaded this draft class was coming in. But this time, you stay still for the 12th time in your franchise's history, and it was the best result you could possibly have imagined. You will take Bam Adebayo dropping 83 points on you every single night in order to get the #1 overall pick in this draft class. It's an incredible feeling, and this is just like the moment, as Danny Rouillet said when he came on, he said, literally pound sand to anybody that was mad at them for taking the process of losing the games that they did. All the people that are saying they're 100% picking 5th, this is nonsense, the NBA won't allow this. There's no choice but to go this route, and the Wizards did it in the last possible year that you can do so. Because what we know about the NBA, you need to have a top 10 to 15 talent realistically to become a championship contending team one day. That's what the Wizards aspire to be within this rebuild. The way you acquire young talent, especially on the cheap when you're not a free agent destination the way Washington has been, you're also in an era where free agency is dead in the NBA because all NBA talent, that's what you're looking for, signs these massive contract extensions, supermax deals, something that crushed this organization for years with the worst Bradley Beal contract. Now you can feel everything start to rise. Everything is going to change with the perspective around DC basketball.
And finally, the Pacers spent an entire season losing, only to lose the lottery too. Indiana's pick landed 5th, which means it's headed straight to the Clippers because of the Ivica Zubac trade, prompting team president Kevin Pritchard to hop online and basically apologize to the fan base in real time. Tough scene for a team that tanked all year, watched Washington jump up to #1 and somehow ended up with neither the wins nor the pick. But star point guard Tyrese Halliburton is still waiting in the wings, ready to lead his team after rehabbing from his heartbreaking Achilles tear in the NBA Finals last season. Coming up, the Knicks watch as the Cavs and Pistons continue to do battle for the second spot in the Eastern Conference Finals. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.